Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you, and this episode brought to you by Farmers Insurance here in Ponca City. They know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two. So, I'm talking to a guy that's seen a thing or two in his coaching career as well. And Coach, I think the best way to put it, Scott Harmon with us, is things didn't go as you wanted on Friday night, but you know what? It was a learning experience, and you just got to pick up the bootstraps and get to back work on this Friday against a rival with Enid.
Well, we always preach when something like that happens. I got 21 years of head coaching experience. It's not the first time that we've kind of gone out and hadn't played up to our capabilities. So what you do on those type of things is you just stress accountability from top to bottom. I told our kids, hey, from me on down to our filmers, we're going to accept our performance, be held accountable for it, and improve on it. So early in the season, we knew we'd go through some growing pains defensively. We didn't realize we may go through some of those offensively as well. So we'll adjust. It's like we say, it was our first real true test in terms of having a full game to evaluate, especially with a lot of kids of the younger kids. So we'll evaluate and adjust, and then do the same this week with Enid.
It's hard sometimes when you look at a game like that to find that silver lining, but were there any silver linings as far as play, maybe stuff you found out on a kid you didn't expect during that game last Friday?
It's funny you mentioned that because one of our senior kids, we always go over on Monday. We have what we call the good, bad, and the ugly meeting, and we talk about what was good, bad, and ugly. And one of my senior kids, we were walking down to the meeting, and he said, "Coach," he said, "are you going to be able to find anything good out of that?" And we giggled about it, and we did. I thought we played really well the first quarter. To be honest with you, I thought we played well in the first quarter, especially defensively. They kind of started wearing us down a little bit, so we kind of got an idea of some changes we need to make, how we can help ourselves depth wise, and then we've also just tweaked a couple of things that we feel like may be able to help us this week as we go into Enid, and that's a constant process that you go through on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you're always trying to figure out where we're wrong. Even if you win by 40, you're
Right.
trying to figure out what you can do better. And Guthrie, that's a team I think that's they're always been a good 5A team. I think they're going to be really good this year with that experience. Now you turn your page to Enid. This is a team, they were in that game with Muskogee. The scoreboard may not look like that, but they did put up some points. So you got another big test coming up this week, and of course it means a little more when it's a home game and it's against your rival.
Oh, no doubt, it'll be a big week, and I told our kids, hey, this will be another good test for you. They do a lot of moving around defensively. We'll have to kind of get on our tracks and stay on our tracks and not get focused on a guy, but more of an area, so that their movement stuff defensively doesn't hurt us too bad. And then offensively, we just got to kind of go in there and secure what we did. We didn't play very well up front last week. We didn't execute very well in the back end. So we'll work on some of those things, make some tweaks. We'll package it up a little bit and try to put our best 11 on the field this week in terms of some different packages and make them defend a couple of different things. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully it'll give us a little spark offensively.
Well, and after what happened last week, and then you got this game this week, you do after this week go into a bye week. I mean, that's the thing about playing week 0. So is there maybe you like the fact you're going into that? You'll like it a lot better if you're going into it after a win, but it does allow you to kind of have a week to kind of focus on yourselves and get things going, because you got one more non-district after that, and then you're in the midst of district play. So the games that matter as far as seeding, they start here pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll use down. It's a Labor Day weekend. I think we got a JV game early in the week, and then we'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we will kind of focus on us a little bit as opposed to prepping for Sand Springs will be the following week. We'll wait till Saturday and get our film exchange with Sand Springs the following week, and then we'll have kind of a regular week prep. But during the off week, we'll kind of focus on ourselves, fix some things that we do, and it gives us a chance to kind of go back to that second week or scrimmage week where we didn't have a lot of time for a 0 week prep and get some game type prep in.
Well, and I imagine this week and next week as well. It's also, I mean, you're telling the guys, hey, be out there fighting. You're fighting for playing time right now. You're fighting for spots. I mean, there's a lot of positions I would imagine that you're saying, hey, if you want it, go get it.
Oh, that's a weekly deal with us. We preach that we compete for spots on a weekly basis. We'll evaluate the film really well on the weekend, and by the time they come in Monday, when we go to good, bad, and ugly and coming out of that meeting, They kind of have an idea where they stand for this week only. I mean, we don't do things for season long, and we stress to some young kids this week that if you feel like you're getting overlooked and wanting some playing time, this is probably one of the times that you want to step up a little bit, because we're looking for some kids to kind of come in and fill some spots.
Yeah. One thing I want to go back on last week that I think was a concern for everybody in the state with the heat like it was, and I know they pushed the game back 35 minutes, but Coach, I thought overall, if I was going to find a silver lining, I thought the conditioning and everything was good. I talked to a lot of different people that had to stop the game a lot because there's a lot of cramps on the field and different things happening. But as far as the game was concerned, it seemed like you got out relatively healthy. And you also, conditioning wise, your guys weren't dropping out there like they were maybe at other places.
No, Coach Montano deserves a lot of credit. We worked hard all summer long with these kids. They've been running rounds and covering 7-on-7, doing a lot of stuff all summer long. So we were in decent shape coming into camp. The strength and conditioning program is kind of just taken us a step further with our bodies and with our conditioning. So really pleased with that, especially for a first game in the heat. I wish they'd have called it, early in the week and just moved it all the way back to 8. It only makes a little bit of sense to me, safety-wise, but it wasn't our home game, so we kind of got to do what they want us to do.
Yeah. You think there ought to be some rule changes with that? I mean, since we are dealing with some extreme heat, now the week 0 game just kind of makes that even more. Do you think there needs to be maybe some changes in looks? I mean, we kind of got a policy where some people are following the wet bulb, some people aren't. So do you think that's something that maybe even coaches get together and talk about and saying we need to figure something out?
Well, I'm on the advisory board. I'm on the Oklahoma Football Coaches Advisory Board. I have been for like the last 12, 14 years. So we discuss things like that. And my recommendation would be that every 0-week game starts at 8 o'clock. Every non-district game is no earlier than 7:30. And then by the time you get to district and you're kind of really into the fall, by week 4, you can start your 7 o'clock play. That's what I would do. It only makes sense. The only downfall for that may be some travel if you had a long travel game earlier in the year, but most people are trying to get local rivals and close games in their non-district. So I mean, to me, that's it's a no-brainer, but sometimes some of those administrators don't look at it as simply as we do.
Right. So, all right, I guess the last thing to talk about will be Enid. You got a chance to break down a little bit of film on them. How do you match up, and what do you guys got to stop with them?
I think it'll be very similar to last year. They do, they're doing a little bit different things in terms of moving some bodies around. They've got a new head coach. He was the guy calling plays last year, so he's not new. It's the same system. As a matter of fact, the reason they hired him was because they wanted to keep going what they had been doing. So he was the best guy for that job, and so he's in there. I'm not for sure. I'm pretty sure he's still calling plays because it looks very similar, and he does a really good job getting the ball out on the edge real quickly. But they're big up front. They chase the ball really well defensively. They don't do a lot of crazy fancy stuff, but they're sound in all aspects of the game, and they're used to playing a tough 6A schedule, so they see teams that are quite a bit better than us on a regular basis.
Yeah, and like I said, they did play with Muskogee for a while last week, so you just got to go out there and see what you can do against Enid. And this has been one that's eluded you, I think, the last couple of years, and I know you want to get that win. And after last year, with the heated game it was out there, I know that all those kids want to get a win too.
Yeah, it's a rivalry game. We're not going to play the next 2 years, so it'll be kind of a 2-year hiatus off of that a little bit. I say that we haven't finalized schedule yet because we've got a little bit of an issue with the districts and the OSSA right now. So there's a lot up in the air question, in terms of scheduling for the next 2 years with both 6A1 and 6A2. So I think Mr. Jackson and the OSSA are going to meet with some of the board members early in September and kind of get that finalized. So we'll have a better idea of that in the next couple of weeks. But this will be it varsity wise for a couple of years, and then we'll reevaluate that once we kind of see what the OSSA is going to do with these districts.
Yeah, and it's interesting how things are progressing and how certain parts of the state are growing and how we're seeing changes, because Enid and Bartlesville has always kind of been rivals of Ponca City, and those games are getting harder and harder to play now. Even a traveling trophy with Bartlesville, they're getting harder and harder to play now with how things are going, because especially like Bartlesville, it used to be a district matchup, not necessarily the case anymore. So there's so much stuff that goes on, and every 2 years we redo it and refight again for these districts, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, it makes sense. You know, Ponca City, I've been around Ponca City. My dad was here in the mid 80s, and I can remember Stillwater, Enid, Bartlesville, you know, those three things. I mean, I'm not for sure why we're not playing every year with those guys. And then Guthrie, you know, they're pretty close
yeah.
to a big 5A successful program. So why those four teams aren't kind of in there helping one another out scheduling wise doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially with the, you know, kind of the remoteness of some of those areas.
No, no doubt. So I agree with you on that. And we've talked a little bit about that before off air. So, all right, Coach. Well, I appreciate your time as always. Let's go get a rivalry win against Enid and feel good about going into our off week next week.
We hope to do so. Well, hopefully we'll play much better this week.
Coach Scott Harmon, and that'll do it for today's Coach's Corner. It's been brought to you by Farmers Insurance. Jordan Woodruff saying so long until our next episode. And until then, go Cats.